Hey everyone, welcome back to The Explainer. Let's dive right in today because we are unpacking a highly effective framework for making those high-stakes, pressure cooker decisions we all face. This entire exploration is anchored by some brilliant insights from Ms. Lee Carl of Lee Carl's Reflections. She hits the nail on the head with this core idea. To obtain real, actionable discernment, we have to precisely determine our true circumstances and, maybe even more importantly, we have to maintain absolute moral centeredness. Without that moral center, we're just flying blind. So we're going to map out exactly how you can find and keep that centeredness today.
Let's be real for a second. I want you to think about a recent moment in your life where you felt totally, completely boxed in. What actually happens in your brain when pressure tries to force your hand? You know the exact feeling I'm talking about, right? Your options suddenly feel painfully limited, the clock is screaming at you, and someone or something is demanding an answer right this second. Well, to figure out how to navigate this without losing our minds, we're going to look at an ancient case study from the book of 1 Samuel involving a city called Jabesh-Gilead. And hey, don't worry if you don't know the ancient history. The human psychology of facing extreme pressure? Yeah, that hasn't changed one bit over the centuries. So picture this. In 1 Samuel 11, this ancient city was backed into a severe corner by an enemy who offered them a deal. But let's call it what it is. It wasn't a negotiation at all. It was coercion masquerading as a negotiation. But instead of completely panicking and folding, the people did something fascinating. They asked for a 7 days respite. They literally hit the pause button. And they didn't do this out of weakness. They did it to build a strategic refuge so they could actually stop, breathe, and think clearly. They bought themselves the one thing they needed most: time.
And that brings us to the real definition of what we're talking about today. Discernment is the ability to perceive what pressure is actively trying to hide from you. Because pressure always creates a fog, right? It tries to obscure what is truly happening, what is actually being offered, and where the path is really going to lead. So the absolute crucial point here is that discernment is not just raw, impulsive courage. Anyone can just blindly leap off a cliff. True discernment is courage that is governed by wisdom, by seeking solid counsel, by understanding the timing, and by standing totally firm in the truth.
Okay, here is our roadmap for today. We'll start with seeing clearly under pressure. Then we'll look at avoiding the two errors. From there, we'll break down the art of relenting, followed by knowing when to pursue, and we'll wrap the whole thing up with the daily discernment grid.
All right, part 1. Seeing clearly under pressure. Think of this as the ancient lens for our modern decisions. That brilliant pivot made by the people of Jabesh-Gilead is the perfect historical blueprint for us today. Deliverance for that city eventually arrived with this incredibly clear, specific message: tomorrow, when the sun be hot. I just love that phrasing because it perfectly illustrates that clarity eventually comes when you maintain your moral centeredness. Discernment isn't just knowing the right thing to do, it's knowing the exact right moment to do it. The timing becomes undeniably clear once you refuse to panic.
But getting to that clarity means navigating a minefield first. Moving to part 2, avoiding the two errors. We have got to watch out for the traps of panic and urgency.
When the pressure spikes, our brains go straight into survival mode, trying to push us into one of two really dangerous ditches. On one side, we have error A, compromise. This is when you just give in. You trade your core values or your righteousness just to get some temporary relief. You're basically accepting harm, but just in slow motion. On the flip side is error B, the foray. Now, a foray is raw courage, but with zero counsel. It's when you convince yourself that feeling an intense urgency means you have a mandate to act immediately. Rushing completely blind into a trap without taking a breath to pray or seek advice, that's just as destructive as surrendering. Both of these errors absolutely thrive in a pressurized environment.
So to dodge those traps, you've got to ask yourself the ultimate discernment question. What kind of relenting is actually being asked for right now? Is the situation demanding that you surrender your truth and compromise your morals? Or is it just prompting you to hit a wise, strategic pause button so you can gather your strength? Distinguishing between those two is literally everything.
Which leads us perfectly into part 3, the art of relenting. We're talking about the power of wise restraint. Let's get super practical here. This is your relent checklist. You should hit the brakes and pause when the opposition in front of you is just totally unreasonable. You relent when you know, deep down, you need outside counsel to see the full picture. You relent when time can be gained safely without giving up your core truth, when the moment just requires you to stand guard, or when you get that internal, divine signal that it's time to just be still rather than move.
I really want this to sink in. Relent when it means wise restraint, not surrender.
Actually, let's say it louder for the people in the back. Taking a strategic retreat to seek help and gain some perspective is the exact opposite of giving up. It is a powerful, calculated, and deeply centered move.
But listen, we don't just stay paused forever, right? That brings us to part 4, knowing when to pursue. This is all about taking righteous action at exactly the right time. So how do you know it's time to hit the gas? Here's your pursue checklist. You advance when your help is actually secured. No lone wolves here. You pursue when the timing is crystal clear, not forced by some artificial urgency. You move when the hearts of the people around you are unified. You step forward when the resistance you're bringing is genuinely righteous and moral. And finally, you act when your movement actually aligns with delivering real solutions. True pursuit is obedient, it's fully supported, and the timing is spot on.
Now, here's a really fascinating wrinkle. Discernment doesn't just magically switch off the second you win the battle. After the victory, what do? Do you relent and show mercy, or do you pursue and exact vengeance? Going back to our story in 1 Samuel, after the victory was secured, King Saul stepped in and declared that no one would be put to death that day. He held back. He restrained his severity. See, discernment means knowing when the fight is actually over, preserving righteousness, and having the centeredness to choose mercy over unnecessary punishment.
All right, let's bring all this down to earth. Part 5, the Daily Discernment Grid, your personal 5-step toolkit for handling pressure. Think of this as your mental cheat sheet. The next time the pressure spikes, walk through these 5 questions chronologically. Number 1, what is truly being demanded of me right now? Strip away the noise. 2, is this just compromise dressing up as a peaceful resolution? 3, is this intense urgency actually just trying to force me into a blind foray without any backup? 4, do I need to swallow my pride, hit pause, and seek help right now? And 5, is the timing genuinely clear enough to pursue action? This grid is your absolute best defense against panic.
While you use that grid, I want you to make these declarations your foundation. Truth will not be traded for relief. Urgency will not be mistaken for faith. Remember, isolating yourself is not strength. You have to ask for help. You have to honor the timing. Deliverance has to be trusted. These aren't just nice-sounding words. This is the actual posture of a morally centered, discerning mind. So, to wrap it all up, discernment ultimately determines the big binary in your life. It tells you exactly when to relent, meaning you purposefully choose restraint, waiting, watchfulness, and mercy, and it tells you exactly when to pursue, meaning you take bold, righteous action that is fully backed by good counsel and perfect timing.
You now have the lens to see clearly through the fog. So I'll leave you with this. The next time the pressure cooker turns on, your options suddenly start shrinking, and that clock starts ticking down. What are you going to do? Will you relent in wise restraint, or will you pursue in righteous action? You have the grid now. The choice is yours. Thank you so much for exploring this with me today, and keep seeking out that clarity.